Good evening. Welcome to News Mongolian MNB World. I'm Ulaanbaatar. And for our top stories for today, Ulaanbaatar Dialogue 2023 concludes. AmCham Mongolia held its annual U.S. trade mission. Mongol Refinery is set to be commissioned in 2026. For other news, stay with us. The two-day Ulaanbaatar Dialogue 2023 on Northeast Asian security was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs last week. The number of countries participating in the 8th round of dialogue increased, with some countries participating for the first time. Mandach, director of the Department of Multilateral Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, pointed out that the event attracted high-level representatives such as the Deputy Secretary General for Disarmament Affairs of the United Nations and the Secretary of the National Security Council of Turkey.
Mongolia pays special attention to Northeast Asian security. During the talks, it was noted that Mongolia is the top military donor country in Northeast Asia and among the 162 countries that send female military personnel to peacekeeping operations. The participants agreed that holding the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue in Mongolia is optimal. Izumi Nakamitsu, the Under-Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament Affairs of the United Nations, said the United Nations support Mongolia's initiative on security and peace in Northeast Asia. She highlighted that the international meeting was being held in a country with a nuclear weapon-free zone status. It was also noted that while the international situation is changing, national and regional security must be kept at a high level. As part of Ulaanbaatar Dialogue, Under-Secretary General Nakamitsu gave a lecture at the National University of Mongolia. Ulaanbaatar Dialogue 2023 was organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Mongolian Institute of Strategic Studies. 200 representatives from more than 30 countries and international organizations participated in this year's event.
The American Chamber of Commerce in Mongolia held its 7th annual door knock visiting Washington, D.C. from June 7th to 9th, 2023, with representatives from the U.S. Embassy in Mongolia and member organizations.
The delegation met with senior U.S. officials from the U.S. Department of State, U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, East-West Center, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, Department of the Treasury, Chamber of Commerce, Export-Import Bank of the United States, and the National Security Council. Meetings were also held with the Mongolian Embassy in the United States and members of Congress. Several high-level talking points were presented during these meetings, such as Mongolia's democratic governance and market economy, the challenges and opportunities facing the strengthening of economic and trade relations between the two countries, upscaling investment, Mongolia's geopolitical characteristics, and the important role of the United States in Mongolia's third neighbor foreign policy. The delegation also talked to U.S. representatives about opportunities to attract financial resources. Since 2014, the American Chamber of Commerce in Mongolia has been organizing its annual U.S. trade mission to strengthen the commercial relationship between Mongolia and the United States. The AmCham door knock lays the foundation for further engagement in Washington, D.C. to continue efforts to strengthen U.S.-Mongolian commercial ties. By organizing door knock missions, AmCham Mongolia aims to facilitate improved communication between the private sector and policymakers, fostering a productive dialogue that can contribute to the growth and development of business and economic ties between the two countries.
The construction of an oil refinery is underway in Altanshret in Dornoi province. The Mongol Refinery project is being implemented in 4 phases. Despite the delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the first phase of the project is approximately 90% complete.
The project team emphasized that the project facilities being built are scheduled to be fully operational by July 23rd.
See, we have completed 90% of this project EPC1. 90% is already completed. Now, in last 3.5 months, we have faced some problem. There was three problems. First problem, we cannot bring any material because the custom clearance we are not getting from the Mongol government. So we cannot bring any material from 1st of March to the last 3.5 months. The second problem was that we cannot bring specialized people from outside because we were not getting any visa. So we cannot bring specialized people to do this job. Third problem was that our all invoice was stopped checking by the Mongolian government from 1st of March 23, and we were not getting any payment. But after the last 4 days back, in last week, the high-level committee under the leadership of Prime Minister and President, they have solved this problem. So we are hoping all these three problems will be solved in next 1 week.
The government of India provided a $1.2 million concessional loan for the oil refinery's construction. However, due to the geopolitical conditions and rising commodity prices, the project's costs have increased by $400 million. The Mongolian and Indian governments have decided to hold discussions to address this issue.
We have quickly resolved issues related to border delays and a 45-day setback caused by the inspection of imported inventory. However, the integration of the workforce from the Indian company responsible for the oil refinery's development and the Chinese company Norinco involved in the oil pipeline project is still under discussion.
The project team announced that the government would have the ultimate authority in deciding the budget for constructing housing for workers. Construction will continue as scheduled, with Erdnis Mongol taking responsibility for managing salaries, budgeting, and operational expenses related to the project.
We have provided 2.4 billion MNT in financing. If this project isn't complete by the end of this year, an additional 3.7 billion MNT is expected to be approved.
The government of Mongolia is currently negotiating with the governments of China and India to enhance exploration and research efforts to put the oil refinery into operation and increase the country's crude oil reserves.
Now please take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Now here comes foreign news partnered with international news agencies. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday insisted that none of the Patriot air defense system in Ukraine had been destroyed by Russian forces.
No matter who in Russia says that our Patriots have been destroyed, they are still there, they are working. All of them are shooting down Russian missiles as efficiently as possible, and not a single Patriot has been destroyed.
Zelensky also highlighted the contrast in visits of 7 African leaders, presidents of Comoros, Senegal, South Africa, and Zambia, as well as Egypt's prime minister and top envoys from the Republic of Congo and Uganda, on Friday as part of self-styled peace mission to both Ukraine and Russia to try to help end their nearly 16-month-old war.
You all saw how the visit of the delegation of African leaders and representatives went, a visit to Ukraine and then a visit to the terrorist state. The delegation had the opportunity to see who is really interested in peace and who himself embodies war. It was very clear. Everything that was discussed in Ukraine was about the peace formula, point by point, the whole content. Everything that was said in Russia was about war, but how to continue destroying lives. It is obvious that there is no alternative to the peace formula. It is good that the world hears and sees this more and more.
Немає альтернативи формули миру.
Zelensky said the entirety of the African contingent's time in Ukraine was spent discussing Ukraine's 10-point peace formula, whereas the same group's time in Russia was spent discussing the war.
The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, announced Sunday the allocation of 20 million euros, or about $22 million to help the Egyptian government deal with the influx of Sudanese who fled the war and crossed into Egypt.
Borrell's announcement came at a joint news conference in Cairo with the Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry.
In very few days, more than 200,000 people has been hosted in Egypt, and I have to thank you for that. And also that the European Union will provide an immediate assistance of 20 million euros to help you to address this new wave of Sudanese refugees on your southern border. I know it's not enough. I know you are going to pay much more, but at least let us to contribute a little bit in your support.
Borrell also addressed the migration issue after a trawler that sank off the coast of Greece last week, leaving at least 79 dead and many more missing in one of the worst disasters of its kind this year. Borrell said that the European Union is allocating to Egypt about 80 million euros for border management, search and rescue, and anti-smuggling operations. Shoukry stated that more assistance is crucial in order to contain the issue.
There is no European country that is hosting the number of refugees that Egypt is hosting. However, we are doing this under the framework of our international commitment that we abide to, but also through the Egyptian historic stance in embracing and protecting our brothers. But we need the continuity of assistance from our brothers in friendly countries, because at the end it is a mutual interest. Egypt has become a destination state, and if things met with obstacles, it would turn again into a transit country.
Egypt has received more than 200,000 Sudanese since the fighting began in mid-April, according to the UN Migration Agency.
Please take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying tuned. We'll see you next time with more news and updates. Have a good day.